Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo.
Hello, and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. In this next interview, I interview a really great guy. His name is Josh Pierce. He is a nutrition coach, and he does a really good job at what he does. But it's interesting because this episode, although we talk about behavior modification and, transforming, going from obesity to super fit and all of those things in between, we also talk about how his father had needed a new kidney, and he actually donated his kidney for his father. So I don't know what your definition of love is, but that to me is it. So it's really, really, I think, a great lesson for all of us. In so many ways, to really take a look at what we can give to this world. And although we might not be able to donate a kidney, I'm sure there's other ways in which we can help those who are in need and who need our love and attention. So I really, really would encourage you to listen to this episode in its entirety. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and I will see you on the other side. Hey, Josh, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm very excited to be here. Even though I just saw you, I'm still excited to see you.
I know. What's it been, like 3 days now?
Yeah, not even, right? How are you adjusting to the time zone going back? We were just in Arizona together.
Oh, great. No, it the first day was a big adjustment. And of course, when it comes to like scheduling calls, like I'm 3 hours away,
It was so complicated.
I was actually chatting about that over the weekend. Like that was a nightmare because my phone adjusted, Google Calendar adjusted to the time zone. I overbooked calls. That was more of a nightmare than adjusting to the time difference game.
Oh my God, seriously? Because, Arizona doesn't participate in the time change, but you're in Florida, right?
Correct. Orlando.
Yeah, and I'm in New York. So Eastern time zone, we do. So it's very confusing.
Absolutely.
But anyways, I'm glad you got back safely. Let's just jump right in. Let's tell everybody who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do.
My name is Josh Pierce. I am an online nutrition coach. I've been coaching for about 2 years now, but I'll actually take it a step back and kind of explain my journey, from the beginning, or from where I claim to be the beginning. So I started really looking into nutrition when I was in college. Wasn't really happy with the way I looked, the way I felt. I just didn't really feel confident in my own skin. I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel attractive to women or anything like that. Like that was something I really struggled with. Towards my later years in college, I started browsing like bodybuilding.com forums and really just trying to figure it out myself. And I can say it was very hard, but when my friends were watching Netflix and TV and everything, I was spending my time teaching myself about nutrition and kind of taking the unorthodox route in college. But I really learned a lot. Didn't really figure it out at the time. I graduated college, moved to Orlando for a job the summer after graduating college, and figured, all right, now I'm cooking my own food. I'm starting this new life, completely transplanted into a new city, new state and everything. I might as well do it the right way. So that was when I really took a hold on things and learned how to meal prep, learned how to track macros, and really insert food accountability into my life for the first time. So that was kind of shit show, for lack of better words. Like I was all over the place. I didn't really know what to do. I was, didn't really know which way to look. I was getting caught up thinking, okay, good foods, bad foods, do this, not that. Like it was just very confusing. Over the course of time, I did figure it out, but it took a few years, and eventually became the person that my friends, family, coworkers would come to point them in the right direction. So, I say it, kind of a coaching role for a few additional years, but it was very informal, more of like a consultative role, just kind of pointing people in the right direction. One day I said, you know what, I have this passion, this knowledge for nutrition. I am going to help more people. I'm being selfish if I'm not helping more people. And that was when I, started coaching, took on a few clients for free to just iron out the wrinkles and see if I could figure it out. And I did. That was last January. So almost 2 years ago now. And now here I am, almost 2 years in with, a solid online nutrition business, online presence as well. So very, very satisfied with where I am and the amount of impact and value that I'm able to deliver on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's so great. I love connecting with people who are really good at what they do, and they give out reliable information and guidance versus just kind of, oh, I had this experience and I lost weight, and so now I'm going to teach other people how to do it. It's like, no, you did your research, you understand your body, other people's bodies, and you're helping them and guiding them in the right direction. So I think that's really, really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say too, like one of the things that helps me connect at at such a deeper level as a coach is that I've had that transformation myself. I lost 50 pounds, from my heaviest until, where I was at my lowest, or where I am really now. But, a lot of these coaches online, like their biggest transformation was when they went from like shredded to stage ready for like a bodybuilding prep show or something like that. Like they haven't been at the other end of the spectrum with the horrible relationship with food, the binge eating, the lack of identity, and all of that too. So that really helps me connect and helps me better understand how to teach this stuff to people on their day one. And that's where a lot of coaches, like, they can't really connect with someone on their day one because they just don't understand what it's like to not know anything. Yeah,
totally. Now, what was your life like growing up? Like, I'm curious because you said you made the change in college. So growing up, what was like the family dynamic, and what types of food did they put on the table? And why do you feel like, what do you attribute to be the reason behind why you were overweight?
That's something I never really explored until, probably the last 6 months. Like, if you would have asked, when did your health and nutrition journey start? Like, I would always say it started after college. But digging deeper, as I slowly peel back the layers of the onion, I realized like it was way back that it started. And I'm thinking, I grew up in a Midwestern family in small town Wisconsin. My dad was from a farming family. So we had the typical like meat and potatoes dinner with a glass of milk. You always got to finish your glass of milk. You always have to eat what's on your plate. I was the oldest of three, and we were all 2 years apart. So we were always on the go with sports and everything, between my parents working and trying to make sure the three of us kids were at basketball practice, basketball games, wherever we had to be. It was a lot of quick grab and go foods. A lot of, we were the kind of family, we always sat down and had dinner together if we were all home. But, on nights there were sporting events, my mom would cook like hamburger helper and just leave it on the stove. Or, there would always just be the quick, easy stuff. My dad was a type 1 diabetic. So, didn't always handle his, still doesn't really handle his diabetes very appropriately, controlling it with, things like Mountain Dew, juices and stuff like that, nutty bars, Swiss cake rolls, quick, simple sugars. So those were the foods that I found myself reaching for when I was 10, 12, 14, 16 years old, looking, digging in the fridge and freezer for a snack. So that was tough, just those quick, easy, accessible sugar foods. And then of course, as we got older, all the traveling that being, a 3-sport athlete required. And shockingly, after sports games on the road, we wouldn't stop somewhere to eat, a good recovery food. We were always stopping at McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, things like that. So that just became a part of my normal routine. So as I got to college and I started to kind of struggle with, stress and all of that, I would revert back to what was comfort for me, what was home for me. And that was fast foods, comfort foods, easy snacks, quick sugars, all of those foods. So that was where it really kind of grew. And as I, of course, in college, as I started to drink and things like that, the food choices definitely didn't improve. They worsened at that point.
Yeah. Well, because it was all you knew, right? Exactly. Like if you're not exposed to healthy food and like vegetables and lean proteins, and then it's like harder to figure it out, right? Exactly. Now it's like you could never go back because you don't have to feel when you eat the right foods. But at that time you didn't know. So I think there's a couple lessons there. It was like, if you know better, you can do better, but also like what you surround yourself with, you're going to grab. Like you said, a lot of the processed foods, high sugary, high fat foods were in your reach. So if you don't know any better and that's what's around you and you're hungry, you're going to grab it. Like that's just going to happen. So set your environment up to succeed.
Exactly. And as you and anybody listening to this may know, like you can think you have it all figured out when things are peachy and everything. But when life starts to get stressful, when you're strapped for time or whatever it is, you revert back to what's comfortable.
Yeah.
That's where the mechanics, the fundamentals break down. And if you don't have a solid foundation, that's where you're going to fall back into those struggles that you've dealt with your whole life. So still, even today, though I, claim to have it figured out, when I travel, when life really gets in the way, that's where my fundamentals break down, and I revert back to those quick fixes, those comfort foods, that feeling of home that I grew up with.
Yeah. I mean, well, if it's okay that I say, you're 30, right?
Yep.
You're 30. And so 20, I mean, you said you started in college, so maybe like 18, 19 years of your life were spent choosing these less healthy options at your disposal, not knowing much about nutrition. So although you've done a lot of research to expedite the process, really a big chunk of your life was doing it the quote unquote wrong way.
Exactly.
And now it's like, this is still slightly new territory. Although you've become an expert in just practicing it daily and doing your research and all those things. Mm-hmm. Realistically, like as a human being, as I am as well, like it's more, I'm around your age as well. So like for me, I've noticed it's the same thing. It's like, although I know better, it's still, there's years of it being the opposite. So you still got to work at it. You're always going to have to work at it.
Exactly. And I think like when it comes to the binge eating that I dealt with in college, like I remember at one point when I was at my lowest with my relationship with food, like those big bags of trail mix that you get at like Walmart, the mountain trail mix, the Great Value ones, the big bags though, not the small single serving ones. Like I remember I sat down and ate one of those in an entire sitting. That had to be like 30 servings of trail mix there, like ridiculous. I remember at a restaurant with my friends one day, we were at Denny's. Our college football team played in the national championship in Salem, Virginia for Division III. And we were at Denny's like the night before the game. And I remember asking my friends, like, if I order a second meal, will you guys wait for me? Like, I remember things like that. I remember one of my roommates, saying, I think it was on that same trip, saying, Josh, you're addicted to food.
Wow.
And that was like when it really kind of hit. Like if you had to say, Josh, when was your turning point? It was after that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that's actually very interesting because I think sometimes we experience things like binge eating or food addiction and where food's always on our mind, but it's rare that it's so obvious that other people notice it. Mm-hmm. And I think the fact that even other people were saying like, I think you have a problem, it must have been really towards the kind of the end of your, like you said, like kind of like, all right, this is it. I need to change.
Exactly.
So you mentioned a little bit earlier, just to kind of backtrack a bit, that your father has type 1 diabetes. And I know you recently just went through a very extensive surgery. Can you explain what you just experienced, to help your father manage his diabetes?
Yeah, absolutely. So my father is a type 1 diabetic. He was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when he was 12 years old, and he is now 52. I remember when I was in high school, he had kind of pulled me and my brother aside and said, hey, don't say anything to anybody. This is very preliminary, but I was told that my kidney is going to be failing at some point in my life, not urgent, but at some point I will need a kidney transplant. Just want to let you guys know. And I remember at that point, I may have been 16 years old or something like that. I remember thinking like, and I thought it was kind of selfish at the time, but gosh, I hope that I'm the one that gets to donate this kidney, and thinking, I had a brother who was 2 years younger than me. I'm thinking, wow, I hope it's me. Like, I want to be the one that does this for him. And then years went by and nothing, he would kind of update us every couple of years when he would get the updates on how his kidney is doing and all of that. And last year, about this time, maybe September, October-ish, actually last year, he pulled me aside again and said, hey, this is a lot more urgent, within the next few months, this is going to need to happen, or I'm going to need to go on dialysis. So he asked me to get tested. He asked if I would do it. And I said, absolutely. Before he even got done asking the question, was like, yes, of course. What do I need to do? And we lined up blood work, and in a matter of 12 weeks, maybe start to finish, maybe 16 weeks, I was donating my kidney to my father at the University of Illinois, Chicago in Chicago, at the end of February. So, without hesitation, I would, didn't think twice about it. I was absolutely ecstatic for this opportunity, but terrified at the same time. You know, I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't really psych myself out, dig too much into it, because I knew if the more I looked in, the more I like thought about it and dug into it, like I would start to create doubts that didn't need to be there. So, you know, I just went about it and made some changes to my nutrition, my workouts going into it to ensure that I was basically giving my father a kidney that wasn't overworked and strained and all of that. So, you know, if there was anything I could do to help him or help him adapt to this new organ, I was going to try and do that. So I kind of took like a month off from the gym, did like really low impact training and stuff like that. Donated the kidney. February 25th, 2019 was when I did that. And gosh, I remember the night before the transplant, and like even we were sitting in my dad's hospital room, and my mom was like, you look nervous. Are you nervous? And that was when it really started to hit me, like, holy crap, in 8 hours I will be back here going under the knife. And you know, that's kind of how it went leading up to it.
I mean, first of all, it's like crazy because you were just so thinking of like the end result, which was helping your father not have to go on dialysis, that you, like you said, you didn't even think about like the complications that have occurred or whatever. And then when it happened, you're like, oh crap, like this is real. Like, and going under elective surgery is a really big deal, like a really, really big deal. So I think that, I know, I mean, I don't know, like, I think if anybody was in that position, they'd be like, oh no, I would totally do it. But like, but when you really get into it, like, not only are you electively going under surgery, which is scary in itself. And I've told myself, I don't even know if I want to have a baby, to be in a hospital bed to get pregnant and have a baby, because I don't like being in hospital. like that's how much, like, I think I'd freak out. But like you went in there, you're like, I'm going to do it. And then you didn't think about what had happened after. So if you want to talk about that a little bit more, which I think is really important, not to tell people to not do what they feel or anything like that, but you almost like didn't prepare yourself for the mental strain that came after. So can you dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you said there about like everybody says they would do the same thing. And that's something I experienced. You know, like I just did this thing that, you know, everybody I talked to said either, well, that was very brave of you, like I would have done the same thing, or, you know, I wish I had that opportunity, you know, something like that. And while I like to, you know, I have all the faith in humanity, but I like to think when it comes down to it, not everybody is actually going to say, yeah, go ahead, take my kidney. Where, you know, but after sharing this story, I hope that those people that are kind of like, yeah, I would do it, but I hope it never really happens, that kind of thing. Like, I hope that what I have to share will kind of change that mindset otherwise. So going into it, yeah, I would have done anything to help him. You know, this is the man who gave me life. Like he was there for me my entire life, like worked a ton of hours every week, yet was always there for me and my brother and sister when it came to sports, when it came to just being there as a father. So it was an opportunity for me to finally give back. But yeah, I never thought about the repercussions after that. And one of the big things is, you know, like my physical goals. I remember the beginning of the year, I set a goal for myself to lift a 1 rep max of a lofty amount of weight for my big 3 lifts, squat, deadlift, and bench press. And going into the transplant, I realized, holy crap, that like I'm gonna have to put that on hold, which totally fine. Again, it was all worth it. But I donated my kidney and realized like I've got a 12-week recovery period where I can't really lift any weight. So the first 6 weeks, I can't lift more than 10 pounds. First 2 weeks, I could barely walk, and I can dive into that too in a little bit too. But the first 2 weeks, I could barely walk. 6 weeks, I couldn't lift more than 10 pounds. But at the 6-week mark, my weight restriction went up to 25 pounds. So that was when my coach started working me into the gym with very minimal weights. So I was doing like a lot of body weight stuff, a lot of like core foundational work, which was actually a reality check for me. So my entire life, like, you know, all my weight training, like it was founded on bro science. You know, like I started in college and didn't really know what I was doing and didn't really take the time to build a solid foundation. So I would just, you know, ego lift and all of that. So this forced me to take a step back and actually spend some time working on the foundation, my core, my back, things like that. with very minimal weight. So that way later on, when I build up my strength again, I can actually do it the right way and not have the barriers, limitations that I suffered previously. So I was, I'd go to the gym for an hour and 15 minutes a day and do mobility work on like the mats in the corner of the gym where people stretch and do ab workouts. And I would get an entire workout done there and like walk out feeling destroyed. So that was great. I thought I was going to get bored with it, but it opened my eyes to the fact that I don't need a full gym to get a good workout. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things when I travel, I have all or nothing mindset where if I'm not in a full gym with a full 90 minutes, like I better just not work out at all. This opened my eyes to like, no, you don't need any of that. Like if you have 5 pounds in your house, you can get a damn good workout. You just need to get creative.
Yeah.
So that was a huge eye opener for me. And then of course the big thing that I, experienced was a ton of weight loss after the surgery. And now, anybody that's listening to this may get excited, like, oh wow, weight loss, like tell me more. Like how can you lose weight? Donate a kidney. Well, my entire adult life, I had been trying to gain muscle. I graduated high school, graduated college at 185, had gotten up to like 200 pounds before this kidney transplant. And it was like solid muscle. Like I was in the best shape of my life, a lean 200 pounds. And actually it was 195. And 2 weeks after my surgery, I had atrophy so bad that I lost 20 pounds.
Yeah.
And that was huge. Like I couldn't look in the mirror at myself. Like any sense of identity I previously had was gone because I had grown to appreciate my body so much and attribute my identity and masculinity to the muscle, the stature, the lean body fat, like all of that, the 6-pack, the broad shoulders, all of that now I look in the mirror and I no longer had. And that was like a punch in the gut. I really didn't know how to handle that.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, when you first started, you realized that like, girls were kind of looking at you. You felt like because you were overweight, you attributed that to the reason why maybe you weren't so popular with the ladies or whatever. And now you've come through that and you've transitioned and everything about your life changed in a positive way. And so now you've taken that apart, like that part of having that identity is gone. And it's like, now what? Mm-hmm. Like, am I still Josh? I feel like I don't know who's Josh on the inside because I've always portrayed Josh being just what looks like on the outside. So probably force you to do some inner work to kind of really recognize like there's more to you than just what's on the outside. So although it's important, and I think a lot of people, if they didn't listen to the episode I have on here with Gina, it's loving you for yourself from the inside out. And it's like, you want to take care of your body because it's important to you and because you love your body, but it's not everything. Mm-hmm. You have to remember that you're a human being and you have a soul, and your soul is really who you are, and how you portray that on the outside is kind of up to you, but it's not, I think a lot of people go the reverse. They think it's like, change my body, then I can be happy. It's like, nope. No, not necessarily. I can't teach you how to be happy, but like, maybe let's just focus on like, just who do I want to be? How do I want to feel? And work towards that. But in this situation, you were limited to being able to have the outlet that you used to have. Right.
And I had grown so dependent on my physical attributes for like personal fulfillment, I guess, for lack of better words. And now, in what felt like the snap of fingers, I no longer had that. And I had to figure out who I was again. Like it was very hard. And like I said, I had a hard time looking in the mirror. I didn't feel like I was seeing the same person. I knew I was the same person, but I couldn't bring myself to accept that I was the same person now that I was 20 pounds lighter, didn't have this muscle, all of that. And yes, I had just, gone through this significant operation and donated my kidney and gave my dad new life and all of these wonderful things. Mm-hmm. But that was still a mental battle that I had to deal with myself. So now I had to pivot from my big goal that I set my eyes on at the beginning of the year for another temporary goal in recovery and all of that, which was great, but a mental battle. And now the lack of identity that I suffered there. And, the first few weeks was great. I was at home in Wisconsin with my dad. He was on one reclining chair. I was on the other in the living room for like 2 weeks. It was great. Like my mom would set us all up with everything we needed for the day. So we didn't have to move, like on the end table, like water, snacks, remote, everything like that. It was great.
Yeah.
And I remember asking him about 2 weeks after, I think it was 10 days after the operation, if he had noticed a difference. And he had not even gotten off the couch yet, really. And he was like, oh, hell yeah. Like I have more energy and I'm less tired now than I have been in the last 3 years.
Wow.
So that was like the first indication. At 10 days out, I was like, holy crap, like this worked.
Yeah. Wow.
So that was amazing. And then I came back to Orlando 2 weeks after. And of course, my roommate goes to work every day. All my friends go to work. So I was here in recovery, sitting in my house. Well, I'm lost. That was where it really sunk in. And I was like, holy shit. And I don't know what exactly women experience with postpartum depression and all of that. But I feel like the emotion that I went through during that time was similar to what women experience in like a postpartum depression.
I've never even thought about that, but it makes sense. You've had something with you and now it's taken out of you and you are forced to slow down. Mm-hmm. And you want to do things like you want to get back to work, but you're not allowed to. You're supposed to kind of keep it easy. I would love to dive into how at the time you were working full-time and building your business, correct? And then you kind of took a leave of absence to just recover.
Right. And
then what are you doing now?
So I was working full time. I had just started a new career January 6th or 7th or something like that. And I worked for 6 weeks and then I took a 6-week leave of absence to give the kidney and recover and everything. All while I was doing that, I was also working on growing my online nutrition coaching business. And I saw it as like, wow, this is great. I'm going to have 6 weeks of free time, nothing but time on my hands. I'm going to grow this business so massive that I don't even have to go back to work. So I built this in my head. And, I even got on the phone with my coach, our coach, Tony, and said, hey, like, I want to maximize this next month. Like, I want to crush it. I have so much I want to do and accomplish. And if I do this right, I don't have to go back to work. I can coach full time. And I set these expectations so high. And I get back to Orlando. And of course, I'm in the lowest point of my life mentally, and just didn't really know. I had all this time on my hands, but I didn't have the identity and the purpose to make efficient use of it and actually do the things I needed to do. Like I was just doing enough to get by. I slowly, and I think my clients at the time saw that because I slowly started to lose clients. I wasn't putting in the work to bring on new business, and I watched my business slowly crumble over that time. And that was so hard because I set the expectation so high for myself.
Yeah.
And I didn't really do anything about it. Like I sat in paralysis, wondering, is it me? What is it about me? Like there goes all my credibility. Why does nobody want to work with me? Why am I not capable of building this, huge online business and all of that? And I really struggled with that.
Yeah, well, and I think the biggest lesson, what I've come to learn through, being an entrepreneur full time, and even before I was doing it full time, the business does the best when you are the happiest, hands down. Like when you're taking care of yourself and you have a good mental state, you show up because people aren't buying coaching. They're buying coaches, right? They're buying you, right? You and I do very similar work. But people who work with me, it's because they like who I am, and people who work with you, they like who you are. The results are the same, right? We're both going to help people to feel confident in their skin, to have a healthier relationship with food, to know how to navigate social situations. Like the result isn't different, but how we get them there and how we make them feel throughout the process is, right? And so who connects with you and who connects with me are very different. But when you don't feel like yourself, and you don't feel like you can show up, it's really difficult to connect with people. And that's really what I think we're here to do, both in the physical world and in the business world and everything like that. So I can relate to you a lot. I know we've talked before. We talked last week, like when I was going through my experience, and still am today, it's still difficult. I feel much better, but it's still difficult because I'm still not clear to exercise. And when exercise for me wasn't just about looking good. It helped with my mental health too. Exactly. It puts you in a better mood. You have more energy. You think more clearly. Like you're less in your thoughts, and you're just more motivated, right? And so, it's not a coincidence like that. when you're not taking care of you, your business isn't great. And for those people who are listening who might not own your own business, but you're trying to show up at work and be the best you are and try to get a promotion, it's the same for you. We think that getting a promotion at work means working extra hours and killing it, but it's not. It's actually taking more time to figure out what's going on inside, to eat right, to exercise, to do the work, to like journaling and stuff, and getting proper sleep and spending quality of time with family and friends, because that when you're happy, you're going to just show up with a better attitude. You're going to be better at your job. And that's how you end up getting the promotion. And that's how you end up where you were, Josh, you said, kind of at your lowest point, feeling like the business, you were going to almost shut down. I remember at the retreat in California, you were almost feeling like, this is it. I think I'm just going to go back to work and not do my business. And meanwhile, within like a couple months, I don't know, when was that? Like maybe a week later, you're like, no, screw that. Like, this is all I'm doing. I'm quitting my job.
Yeah. And that's something where, and I guess I didn't really, kind of finish that part of the story, but yeah, I was at the lowest of lows, didn't really feel worthy with my business, and just kind of coasted, doing just what I needed to get by. And that was it for, maybe 3 months. And end of June rolls around and our coaching mastermind event comes up, and I almost didn't even go. Like I prolonged buying my plane ticket as long as possible. Just didn't feel worthy of being in that room of a bunch of high performing entrepreneurs who are crushing it, delivering value and impact and all of that. I just didn't feel like I was at the same level. So I almost didn't go. And I got up before the room, before all 50 of the RDs and coaches in the room, and said, guys, this is probably going to come as a shock to you, but if I didn't invest in this community, if I didn't have this community, this team around me, I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be coaching.
Yeah.
And that was when I kind of had this revelation that, this was it. Like I started coaching for a reason. I had this purpose. I had this strong why. And that day, the team, every single one of you guys and the team around me reignited that fire within me. And I went back home to Orlando, back to my shitty full-time job that I really didn't want to be in at all. And I started putting in the work to get out of there. And yeah, within a couple of months, I decided I was going to leave my full-time job. I set like a 4-month goal. I wrote my letter of resignation and everything, post-dated it for 4 months. For November 1st, which was going to be the day we got to Tempe, Arizona for the mastermind. And I remember 2 months before that date, it was like September 1st. And I was like, screw this. I'm done. Can't do this anymore. I'm at a point with my business where I'm confident I can, I'm where I need to be. And I made the jump. And it's been amazing.
So proud of you. So proud of you. And I think there's a big lesson in there, is that when you invest in yourself and when you are supported with the right people and you have accountability and you have people around you who genuinely want what's best for you, even in your worst of worst, you're still going to get out of it. Mm-hmm. Because you have the right people and the right support. And I think that's really, really powerful. For anybody listening, is we feel like if we're kind of lost, that it's like time to give up, or, what's the point of investing in something like a nutrition coach if I'm just going to fail? It's like, no. You're investing because you're like putting your spot in. I have so many people that join my program with a 6-month commitment, and I have them pay up front. Because you're all in. And when shit gets hard, you're not bouncing, because I won't let you. Right?
Exactly. If you're not willing to commit for the long term like that, then this isn't the program for you. Then you're going to continue with this vicious cycle of yo-yo dieting or whatever you're doing or whatever you've been doing that hasn't been working. That's just going to continue. You have to disrupt the process. If you want results that you've never gotten before, you've got to do the things you've never done before.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, that is making a commitment to yourself, investing in yourself, surrounding yourself with the right people, the community that's going to help you push through. And I think the biggest thing that I learned there was that I wasn't alone, that my situation was unique, of course. But when I disclosed that, I was on the verge of giving up, the outpouring of support that I received from every single one of you guys, like, no, I've been there. I understand. Like your situation is unique. You just gave an organ, give yourself some grace. Like all of these things, like that helped me realize that what I was going through was normal. Totally. What I was going through is totally okay, that I'm not the outlier, that I'm not this, waste of space or whatever it is, and helped me realize that I am enough, that I am delivering value, that I just suffered a minor setback for something greater.
A greater cause. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people forget about sometimes there are situations that pull us back a bit, but it's for a greater good, right? It's to help us in the long run. So sometimes we go through these things, but it's so we have a deeper understanding of who we are, or someone else that maybe now you have. I would not be surprised if you end up getting a coaching client down the line who is donated their kidney. Like, I would not be surprised. Like, I don't think that this stuff happens on accident. I feel like because you're talking about it here today on the podcast, you'll probably get a message from someone who maybe has been asked to donate their kidney, and they're kind of stuck, and maybe they don't know. Maybe they will, they want to, but their gut's telling them not to. So, whatever that is, I think we don't go through stuff by accident,
Right. I want to comment on that too, because it's been 9 months now, 8 months since I donated my kidney, and I haven't spoken about, where we are now. So I will just say the same day I donated my kidney, I stood by my hospital bed. I tried to walk with the nurse's help. I couldn't walk. I was really frustrated, sat back down. The next morning, I was able to walk down the hall to my father's room with the nurse's assistant. So that was great. I was in pain, but I was able to walk. The next day, so 2 days after, they sent me home. I wasn't ready to go home, but they said, Josh, you're good to go home. You need to get out of here. It's a hospital. We can't keep you in here with open wounds. You're just going to get sick. So I was like, fine, I'll go home. And at about day 10, day 14-ish, I went drove like an hour to hang out with my friends for the day and all of that, because I was going stir crazy. So I was starting to gain my mobility, gain some freedom. At the 4-week mark, 4 weeks out, I remember telling someone, like, I'm perfect. I can bend over, I can move, I can do everything I would normally do, aside from the lifting restrictions. But other than that, I could do everything I could do. At 4 weeks out, I felt no pain, nothing. So anybody who's considering this, anybody who's ever been asked, anybody who knows someone who has kidney issues or something like that, that thinks that, they could be a fit, at 4 weeks out, I was perfectly fine again. Mm-hmm. And, much sooner than that, I was walking and normal. I just, had a little bit of pain. It wasn't near as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like, mind blown at how painless it was compared to what I thought it was going to be. Mm. So yes, they cut you open. They do it it's 2019, guys. Like, they do it with minimal, they do it in a way that it's not going to be very intrusive. Yeah. And so that was great. Anybody that's considering it, at least get tested. Like, worst case scenario, they just say, no, you're not a match, and you move on, but you have peace of mind knowing that you tried and, you made the attempt. And if you can always decide up until the day of, you don't want to go. And that's one of the things they told me. They're like, it was like a month before, and I was going through the final paperwork and everything. And they're like, you can change your mind up until the time that they roll you into the room. So if you get there and you don't want to do it, and I'm like, stop, like, you don't need to tell me this. Like, I don't need to hear all this stuff, because I'm going to do it. But yeah, you're not like roped in just by getting tested. So if you know anybody, share this with them, share this story. It's not near as bad as I thought it was going to be. Now, fast forward, my father he recovered quicker than I did. He experienced less pain than I did. He went back to work sooner than I did. And the reason for that, which makes a ton of sense, is that he is going from a lower quality of life to a significant upgrade. Yeah. So the perception is like, holy crap, this is great. Like, I'm recovering fast. I feel great. Me, who, I guess for lack of better words, like, I was going from a great quality of life to now you remove an organ. So it's kind of a downgrade. So that's why I experienced a little more pain. It makes sense. I don't know if anything scientific behind it, but I did, he recovered quicker than I did and all of that. So now 8-9 months later, we're both in excellent shape. He's got more energy than he ever has. He's doing things that my mom could never imagine him doing, which is, it's really cool to see. That's like, he really has a new lease on life.
Yeah. And he doesn't have to go through dialysis, which, if you guys don't know what that is, but basically he would have had to sit in a chair, and his blood would have to get clean 2 to 3 times a week for hours on end for the rest of his life. He would have to give up 3 to 4 hours a day, 2 to 3 times a week, to sit in a chair and have the blood hooked up to machines to filter the blood. And we would have to be already, the diabetic diet is super restrictive. the renal diabetic diet is like very restrictive. Like he would have had to literally change so much of his life. You literally gave him life. He could work. Do you know how difficult it is to keep a job when you have to go to dialysis? Like it's not a joke. And how old is he?
52.
52. Not to say anybody needs to be doing that at any age, but it's kind of normal as you get older in maybe your 80s or 90s, like you start to kind of, at that point, if that were the case, I'm not saying it's better or worse, but like you are retired, like you don't have anywhere to be, like really. But I mean, at 52 years old, like you got to work, like you have to still, it's more than this with the, lifespan now, that's like almost half your life you have left over. So yeah, well, anyways, I want to be mindful of your time. I know we're wrapping up. I know you have a call and I got to do things. But is there anything else that you want to add or throw in there before we wrap up?
No, I mean, like I just said, if you know anybody who has kidney issues, who is in need of a donor, whether it's a friend, family member, anything like that, get tested, and of course it's something you've got to be willing to do, but it's not near as bad as I thought it would be. And, to take it a step further, you give that person a new lease on life and you recover much quicker than you think. Like you don't need 2 kidneys. Now I don't have any limitations now whatsoever. I can do anything I want. I can eat anything I want. No limitations. I can't take, NSAIDs, which is basically like painkillers, that non-steroidal anti-inflammatory painkillers, basically. So about half the painkillers out there I can't take. Like that's it. That's my only limitation. So you can fully function with 1 kidney. It doesn't adversely affect your quality of life or anything like that. So consider it. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I would do it for a stranger after going through that process and seeing how simple it was and how it really restored life. Like without thinking twice, I would do it for a stranger if I had another kidney to give. Wow.
Well, thank you so much, Josh. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you and tell you that you inspired them to do something great?
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram. It's Josh Pierce Nutrition, JoshPierce Nutrition, standard spelling. I also have a podcast, the Fit to Be Fierce podcast, much similar to yours. It's nutrition is made to be so seemingly complicated, and it shouldn't be. And there are so many people out there who aren't getting started working towards their goals because this daunting nutrition thing is getting in the way. It's confusing. They're lost. And I just break it down into very simple terms and something simple, digestible that anybody can understand and apply. So it's all about making nutrition simple. Again, Fit to Be Fierce podcast. It's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, all that. So
awesome. Well,
send me a DM. If you have any questions about the kidney donation process, what I experienced, what my father experienced, don't be afraid to reach out. I am an open book with any of this stuff.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. It's been awesome. And I will talk to you soon.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. All right, guys, if you're not subscribed to his podcast, go subscribe. And if you're not subscribed to the Tips with Tony podcast, you definitely want to subscribe. It will notify you every Monday and every Wednesday when a new episode comes out. I really, really appreciate you guys for listening. I want to just say thank you from the bottom of my heart. We are coming in strong for 2020. So excited to have you here with me. And I look forward to growing together. All right, guys. I'll talk to you soon.